Hello, this is Spartan Commander, and this is the 268th Rome Total War Brotherhood game that I've put onto YouTube. This battle was actually supplied by a Greek member, Kleomenis. I'd just like to give you a bit of history on the Greek clan here. As you see, there's 3 members here. Now, the Greek clan's mission on RTW was to be the best clan with the Pike factions, and to this end they practiced for hours and hours and hours on RTW. We used to see them in internal battles in the RTW lobby, and as I understand it, one team bought Rome and one team bought Pike factions, and they practiced different tactics, strategies and manoeuvres with the Pikes against their Roman colleagues there, and then when they finished that battle they'd come out and they'd swap over. Some of the Greeks then would take Rome and others would take the Pike factions, and as I say, they used to practice for hours and hours and hours, because they knew that when they fought anybody else outside of the Greek clan, most of us used to bring Rome factions against them. So that's where they practiced so hard to fight the Rome factions with the Pikes. And I think after all the hours and hours and hours of practice that they did with the Pikes, most RTW players would agree that the Greeks did become the best clan with Pikes on RTW. And whenever you faced a Greek clan's team, you know you were in for a real fight. Okay, the first Greek teammate here is Greek Diomedes, who has bought the Greek Cities faction. As you can see, all Pike factions here for the Greek clan, and as you can see, he's got, I think it's something like 15 Spartan units, so my guess is there's going to be mixed upgrades there. He's got 3 of the cheap short range archers, and I think unusually he's got Rhodian slingers. So he's got 2 Rhodian slingers, the cheap archers, and about 15. Now can you see he's got 3 upgrades on these Spartan units, but if you look up the row a little bit there, see 3 on this end of the Spartan units, but if you look up the row a little bit, can you see he's got 6 upgrades. So he's got gold shield, gold attack on some of his units, and just 3 upgrades on others. So that's like a pretty good army there. Be interesting to see how well it does against good Roman players. Okay, there. The next teammate is another Greek player called Exas, we used to call him. I'm not going to take a stab at his name, but he's bought the Seleucid faction there. And if you notice on the upgrades of his Pike units there, can you see he's got 7 upgrades. So that's a gold shield, gold attack, and a experience stripe as well. So those pikemen look pretty formidable to me. Remember that the Seleucid faction has not got very good morale, so to have an experience stripe really does help. If you notice, he's got legionnaires, silver shield legionnaires there as well. Now these look like a copy of urban cohorts, but they have nowhere near as good specifications as Roman units there. And if you notice, he's got just 3 upgrades on them. Now my guess is there he's got gold defense on these legionnaire units, and will use them as pillar shields in front of his main Pike battle line, and that's why he's only got 3 upgrades on them. That's my guess anyway. And then we move to the Cataphract Cavalry, the tanks of the ancient world. Do you remember we call them that? And they've upgrades that like a gold stripe, a stripe and gold shield, gold attack. And there you have a close-up look at them. You can see why they're the tanks of the ancient world, armoured from head to toe, extremely devastating cavalry charges and difficult to kill. And I think used properly they can be battle-winning cavalry. So that Seleucid army looks pretty good to me, but notice no archers to defend his Pikes against archer fire. So maybe an unusual Seleucid army without archers to cover the Pikes. Okay, their third teammate is Greek member Kleomenis, who has bought the Macedon faction. A lot of you probably will still see Cleo from time to time on RTW, but there's not many Greeks that come on RTW these days. And if you notice there, I think he's got something like 15 Pike units there. Now look at the upgrades on these Pike units. He's got 8 upgrades, so that's 2 experience stripes, gold shield, gold attack. So these Pike units are really serious Pike units with those upgrades on. And look at the length of these Pikes, the same length as a Seleucid pikeman. Now remember, Roman soldiers have got to fight down those Pikes to kill the men on the other end. If you see how long those Pikes are, you can see how much of a problem that is for Roman soldiers. If you notice, he's got 2 Cretan archers to give his Pikes a little bit of cover from archer fire. And I noticed that he's got a couple of cavalry units as well. There you go. If you notice, he's only got gold shield, gold attack on those cavalry units, so my guess is he'll be very selective on how he uses those 2 cavalry units. So there's the Greeks team. As I say, this battle was fought maybe I think about maybe 4 years ago, something like that. And as I say, it's very interesting to see one team that's all made up of Greek clansmen there, all with their pike units. And when you're a Roman general and you're facing 3 Greek clan members with their pike units, you know you're in for a real challenge. This battle's got the ingredients to be an absolute classic, and I hope you enjoy it. At this stage of the battle, I thought we'd just have a look at the Greek players' formations here. There's Kleomenis' Macedon formation there. Quite a solid formation, even if he suffers pile of damage at the front of his army there. He's still got loads of pike units at the rear, fresh and ready to put into the fray. And also with that formation, he can defend the flanks of that formation easily by using units from at the rear. Then we have the Seleucid factions we said here. Remember the Silver Shield Legionnaires with just I think gold defense on as Pillar Shield units in front of the pikes, and the Cataphracts at the back ready to be used in any direction. And then we have the Greek cities formation there. Unusual formation, maybe he's going to use them as kind of different armies, as we've seen in other pike armies. So there's the Greek team there. But you wait till you see the other team. Really good players. This is going to be a classic. And here is the other team. We have Titans Mohammed, who has bought the Rome SBQR faction. Now if you notice here, Mohammed's bought about 16 infantry units, 1 archer units and 3 cavalry. So that's a heck of a lot of infantry to bring there, but they know that they're going up against pike units, so that's why they've bought more infantry than usual. But if you look at his 3 cavalry, you can see they've got 8 upgrades on. So that's 2 experience stripe, gold shield, gold attack. So that is a serious army, custom built to me to fight pike armies. And then we come to their second teammate, Titans Hades, who's also bought the SBQR faction. As you can see there, he's got 2 or 3 archer units, and I think he's got about 14 maybe infantry and 4 cavalry there. Looks like a pretty good army. And then their third teammate is somebody that you probably all know, and that's Titan's Beast. And if you've noticed, he's bought 20 urban cohort units here. 20 infantry, no cavalry. Now this is how serious I think the Titans are taking this this battle with the Greeks. I mean, it's very, very rare for Beast not to bring any cavalry. So to bring 20 urban cohort units there, I think this is going to be a major army to watch. So there's the Titans clan team there, all full of good players, fighting the Greeks, all full of good players. Rome versus Pikes. Who do you think you'll have your money on? It could be an interesting battle, and it should be really interesting to see who wins. Okay, right from the very beginning of the battle here, that they're just still forming up. Can you see that Titan's Beast is attacking the Macedon Greeks player in front of him there? He's charging his 20 units of urban cohort straight across the battlefield. As we know, Titan's Beast is a very aggressive attacking player. Always has been, and I suppose he always will be. Whenever you face him, you know he's going to attack, and that's exactly what he's doing with those 20 urban cohort units. You imagine how many pilers he's got to be able to throw with 20 urban cohorts, and how much damage he could do to those pike units there. As I say, he's leading the charge of his team there by seem to be attacking the Macedon player there. Now, it wouldn't surprise me if Beast brought his infantry round in a flanking action. He won't want to take the pikes on head on at this stage of the battle, but he would like to get round the flank of those pike units there, possibly with a view to try and disrupting the whole enemy battle line there. Because if that Greek general has to turn his infantry there, as he's doing now, it could disrupt, as I say, the Greeks' main battle line there at the front. As I say, can you see Beast pulling his infantry around the flank of those Macedon units there? Probably with a view to mass piling that those units there. And if you notice that Kleomenis is now pulling his units further back, if you notice his Seleucid teammates pulling his units back as well, and this tactic by Beast to do this really aggressive flanking action has done what he wanted to. It seems to have disrupted the Greeks' battle line here. Can you see it looks a bit disrupted? With the Macedon and Seleucid Pike running into each other kind of thing there, almost blobbing. It's very, very disruptive play there by Beast. Let's just pause the game for a second. As I say, you can see Beast here keeps chasing, keep running, keep attacking the enemy, making the Greeks kind of pull back, and as I say, kind of disrupting their whole battle line there. Beast's allies closing in as well, running forward as well on this left flank. And if you look over on the right flank here, can you see his Greek cities ally there is actually being flanked by enemy SBQR infantry. So the SBQR infantry are going to pin the Greek cities at the front, is my guess, and then move those units around the flank to attack the enemy in the Greek cities units in the flank. The Greek city general spotted this and is now pulling back. Nice retreating move there by the Greek cities general there, because he doesn't want to get piloted in the flank. And he's joining back up with his Seleucid teammate there. But still the SBQR general is moving his infantry round here. If he moves that infantry round too far, he could get cut off from his other part of his army. Right, can you see that the Greek cities general here is seeing an opportunity to cut off that one part of the Roman army that's flanking and allow his Seleucid cataphract tanks to charge in to the to those flanking units there. That's a nice teamwork move there. The Greek cities general cuts off reinforcements while his Seleucid teammate charges his cataphract cavalry into those flanking SBQR units. Nice combination of teamwork there by those two. So the Greek cities cut off reinforcements for those flanking units while the cataphracts charge into them and rout them. As I say, really nice combination work there by the two Greek clansmen there. Meanwhile, over on the left flank here, you can see that Beast is still manoeuvring his infantry round, still pushing Kleomenis' Macedon units back. So there's still a bit of disruption on the Greeks' left flank here. But meanwhile, over on the right flank here, with those cataphracts charge in, it wouldn't surprise me if they, if the Greek city general moves some units over as well to help, and they could rout all these SBQR units here. As you can see, a lot of the SBQR units are routing. They've even thrown in some SBQR cavalry. Right, can you see the Greek city units coming over? Now those Greek cities probably will keep their pikes up to just use their swords because they don't want to put their pikes down because they would cause casualties to their Seleucid cavalry teammate there. See, so the Greek cities now have moved men over there using their swords, plus the cataphracts charging as well. So all those SBQR units that were involved in that flanking action have now been routed. As I say, really nice combination move there by the Greek cities and Seleucid teammates there. Allowing the cutting the reinforcements off for the Greek city infantry and charging in with the cataphracts and using Spartan units with just their swords there as well. Routed all those units. So as I say, nice move there. New players watching this, great combination teamwork there. Now remember, the Greek city units, the Spartan units, are great defending units, but they are also fantastic attacking units as well. So always remember that. I know it's very easy to just defend with Greek cities, but if you use them to attack, you can use their full potential there. Meanwhile, over on the left flank here, you can see Beast still got all his 20 infantry units there, still moving around, still making Kleomenis move out. Do you remember what we've talked about in other battle videos? If you're attacking, if you're on the front foot, your enemy's can only react to you and have to kind of dance to your tune. Right, so meanwhile, back over on the right flank here, you can see the Greek cities are facing the those SBQR infantry attacking them. If you notice, the cataphracts are charging over there as well to try and take a bit of pressure off of those Spartan units there. And if you notice, the SBQR general's pulled a lot of his units back. He didn't want to face the full charge of those cataphract cavalry there. So I'll be interested to see what happens on this right flank. There's a couple of Kleomenis' cavalry there as well, probably ready to give a hand if needed. If you notice, the Greek cities general is now pulling his Spartans back, probably to regroup and maybe form a new battle line. But if you notice, there is a gap between the Greek cities and their Seleucid teammates there. So I don't know whether the enemy might try and exploit that gap, but there is the Seleucid cataphract tank cavalry just behind them, so maybe they won't. I think out of the three Pike factions here, the Seleucid Pike faction may be the one that's going to get targeted here, as they know the Seleucids probably are the weakest of the three Pike factions there, and the morale is very low as well. So it'd be interesting to see how the SBQR generals play this game. If you notice there, they are attacking those Seleucid Pike units head on there. And meanwhile, over here on the right, you can see you've got the Spartans and the cavalry there, and the cataphract cavalry there facing the SBQR infantry units. In the centre, as you can see, as said earlier, Seleucid being attacked by the SBQR infantry. I notice that they are targeting the Seleucid pikemen there. As I say, probably realising that they may be the weaker part. Now, if you notice, the Greek cities generals put a hard edge of Spartans in front of those Macedon formations there. So those Spartans are kind of like, as I say, the hard edge of that formation, ready to take any attack that massive SBQR infantry wants to put in. And that will help the Macedon units quite a lot there. As I say, nice move by the Greeks, keeping the Seleucid cavalry. Just pause again for a second. Nice move by keeping their cavalry at the rear of the action there. So if their pikes are flanked one side or the other, they can move their cavalry easily and quickly over to one flank or the other there to defend the flanks. Remember, with pikes, the flanks and the rear is always what you go for with a Roman general. Well, with that cavalry stood at the back there, that makes it a little bit more difficult for the Roman general to kind of manoeuvre and get round the flank there, because they don't want to get hit by all that cavalry, as we saw earlier, all those Macedon units getting routed there. Right, if you notice, there is a gap between the Seleucid and the Greek cities general, and the Greek cities general just spotted that, and he's moved his pikemen over there to close that gap. If you notice, the Greek cities general in front of his Macedon colleague there, looks like he's attacking some of the SBQR units. I'm surprised the SBQR team's not looking at more flanking action. Yeah, I know they've got the Seleucid cavalry in behind, but if they move a good group of infantry around there, I'm not sure whether that Seleucid cavalry would try and hit them. It'd be interesting to see. But remember, you don't really want to take pikes head on. We've talked about this in other battle videos, unless you've got a plan to take them head on, to pin them where you move units around the flank. So it'd be interesting to see how these good Titan generals move on the battlefield here in regard of the flanks. You know, as you can see, Beast got his units in Testudo there. But can you see the pilots flying in? Loads and loads of pilots. As I say, he's got 20 units of urban cohorts, so he's going to cause a lot of casualties with that many pilots. The Macedon pikemen are good defence force, but also they can be used in attacking as well. So maybe a combination of Greek cities and Macedon attacks there might be beneficial to the Greek team. I notice the Seleucid cavalry are slowly moving over to this left flank, the Greek city's left flank here, the Greek clan's left flank. If you notice there, can you see, like I said, the Spartans are like the hard edge of the formation, and there's Macedon, big Macedon pike units just behind them to back them up. If you notice that Cleo's kept a lot of tactically fresh units at the back there, ready to throw in anywhere along the battle line. Now that's another little tip there for new players watching this. If you can, keep some units in reserve, because somewhere along that battle line it's going to start to break, and then you can start throwing your men, those fresh units, into where they're needed along the battle line here. There's a close-up of the Spartans with the Macedons just behind them, fighting the enemy SBQR troops there. Right, can you see that Seleucid cavalry looks like it spotted a target, and then all of a sudden it stopped, decided it wasn't going to go any further, and now decided to charge into the rear of that SBQR unit that got in behind that Greek city's unit and was attacking the rear. Once again, you see what great teamwork the Greek clan are showing here. Any of their teammates in trouble, bang, they send reinforcements over, or in that case cavalry, to help their teammate out. It's a nice nice teamwork on both sides here. So you can see another SBQR unit's got in behind those Spartan units, and this Seleucid cataphracts are charging forward, and bang, as they go into the rear of those attacking SBQR units there. I must say, the Greeks' right flank over here, it looks like they're a little bit outnumbered by SBQR troops. I'm just thinking to myself, if the SBQR troops attack aggressively on this right flank, they might be able to do some good. But I've noticed a lot of the Seleucid units are very weakened here. As I say, I think out the three Pike factions, the Seleucid would be the one that they may well target, as they are recognised as probably the possibly the weakest faction out those three. Right, can you see the Seleucid cavalry moving over to this left flank here? Now I'm just wondering whether they're thinking they're going to charge around the rear of those engaged SBQR troops. There, can you see they've pulled out now? I'm just thinking, are they going to charge into the flank of those engaged SBQR troops? They certainly don't want to hang around there too long. No, not with enemy cavalry and infantry coming in on them. Let's just pause the game for a second. As I say, I was just thinking maybe they might have pulled over there with a view to charge into the flank of those engaged SBQR troops and maybe rout loads of them. That may be what they were thinking there. But as you can see, all the way down the Greek clan's battle line, they are engaged everywhere with the pikes there. Can you see these Seleucid cataphracts here using their effective against armour maces against that SBQR general? But all the way down the battle line here, you can see that the SBQR Roman infantry is attacking extremely aggressively. Now, whether the tactic is there to pin the pikemen at the front while they get units around the side, we can only wait and see. Over there on the Greek right flank here, you can see that they've tried to extend their right flank with those Greek city units, but if you notice that the SBQR general backed up with a couple of cavalry units, looks like he's coming round behind. And if you notice that the with the Seleucid cavalry away over on the other flank there, on that left flank, I think the SBQR general is kind of emboldened by that, seeing the cavalry on the other flank, and that's why he's doing this aggressive flanking action, trying to get in behind the Greek city pikemen here. Nice tactical move there by the SBQR general. If you notice, he's attacking the Seleucid general there. Now, of course, as we know, the Seleucid morale is extremely low, and with the general now routed, now killed, then the Seleucid morale, which is already low, is going to lower even more. And I've seen situations like this under pressure where Seleucid units start to mass rout. Okay, can you see the Seleucid cataphracts over on the Greeks' left flank have now been routed? Okay, so their cavalry cover has now been routed from the battlefield, and it looks like they've got no cavalry cover at all now to guard their rear from any cavalry hits. All the way along the battle line there, you can see the enemy SBQR Roman troops attacking them. Can you see the SBQR cavalry in behind as well? Probably with a view to charge into maybe the rear of some of these engaged enemy pikemen there. Bang, as those two cavalry units hit. Wouldn't surprise me if they routed, yeah, they've routed a couple of the Greek city units there. Lots of pressure on this the Greek clan's right flank here. Now I think they're going to have to start disengaging units from further up the battle line and moving units over to this right flank, because if they lose this right flank, the enemy will roll them up from right to left. So they need, I know they don't want to, but they're going to have to disengage to try and hold this right flank. And when they do that, they could start opening up gaps in their main forward battle line. Can you see another SBQR cavalry charge there? Has routed a couple of Seleucid units and a Greek city units there. So at the moment, the Greek clan's right flank looks in a pretty, I don't know if desperate situation, but it certainly looks like it is in danger of breaking here, with the the amount of SBQR enemy troops attacking it. And like I say, if they pull units away from their main battle line to support this right flank, then they're going to start leaving gaps and allowing enemy troops maybe to pour through those gaps. Meanwhile, on the Greeks' left flank here, you can see with all the Seleucid cavalry has now been routed. There's a couple of SBQR cavalry units there that, used properly, can get in behind the engaged pike units and start to rout them. At the moment, I think, to be honest, things are not looking that good for the Greeks' team here, with their right flank under extreme pressure and enemy cavalry getting in behind them. I think that, as I say, they may well start to disengage from their main battle line and pull units over to this right flank. But as I say, if they do that, they will open up gaps in their main battle line. Right? You see the cavalry going into the back of those engaged Greek city units there, trying to rout them. Another couple of cavalry units charging. They're hoping that the shock and the impact of the cavalry charge at this stage of the battle might rout those Greek city. And if you notice, a Seleucid and Greek city unit has just routed there. As I say, the only way they're going to try and hold this right flank is to disengage from their main forward battle line. And if they do that, they're going to leave gaps in that battle line, allowing enemy troops to come through. So it's in a very difficult situation the Greek clansmen are at the moment. Anybody seen the gap yet in the main battle line? See some enemy troops coming through. Right over here on the right, you can still see it's really a lot of pressure on the Greeks. Is right. Can you see the gap there in the main battle line? Let's just pause again for a second. Right, where they've disengaged from that main battle line, they've left a gap for enemy to come through there if they want. They had to disengage from that main part of the battle line to try and shore up their right flank, but by doing that they have now left a gap, and they've in effect split their armies up to a right flank and a left flank with no centre. Now the enemy may well try to exploit this by getting through that gap and getting in behind the pikemen there. As you can see, the battle now has developed from full battle line to just a right and left flank. And you can see there's enemy SBQR cavalry in behind the pikemen as well. So there's a lot going on at the moment. Okay, the Greek city's general just been killed, but because the specifications of the Spartans are so good, it doesn't affect them as badly as it does other factions, although their morale will drop a bit. Right, if you notice, a couple of SBQR cavalry units, battle damage units, just charged into the rear of some Macedon units and routed them, and a Greek city units as well over here on the left flank. As I say now, do you remember that the main pressure was on the Greeks clansmen's right flank? It is now on the left flank. But also there is still pressure on that right flank as well. So people watching this, which way do you think this battle's going to go at this moment? I can see a lot of Seleucid units just routing there as well. Lots of SBQR units in and around those pike units, attacking from the rear and the flank as well. So I think it's still very much up in the air here on both flanks. I see the Greek city's general units just been routed there. There's a couple of Macedon pike units. Just if you're looking closely, can you see they're fighting back to back, trying to defend their back, but their flank is wide open, and that's where the enemy is attacking their flank on both flanks here. Can you see? They're pinning them at the front with some units and attacking their flank there. So how long those two pike units will last with that those flank attacks on them and all their allies routed, I don't know. They may be able to hold. I see there's another SBQR unit coming in as well. But meanwhile, over on the right flank here, if I look carefully, I think I can see it's mostly pikemen left on this right flank, and a lot of the SBQR units have been routed. Okay, now if you notice that on this right flank, as I say, most of the SBQR units have been routed, and the Greeks now are trying to get their pike units over to this left flank to help those two marooned, those two isolated Macedon units there in amongst all those SBQR infantry. So they need to get some pikemen over there to help them. Well, one of the units is just routed there, and it wouldn't surprise me if the other one routed as well pretty soon. Okay, so I think we're just about going into phase 2 of the battle now. Both teams have got very battle damaged units, and it'll be very interesting to see which way this battle is going to go. I think if the team with the pikes, the Greeks, can get into some kind of defensive formation, looking at this very battle damaged Roman infantry, I think that could give them an advantage there. But of course the Roman infantry will be trying to outmaneuver them and get in behind. So there's a situation there. As you can see, the Greeks units and the Roman units are very battle depleted, very battle damaged here. And I think this battle's going to go right down to the wire. Who has got the best morale? Who's going to be tactically aware and move units around the flanks and the rear? It'll be interesting to see this last phase of the battle. As I thought they would, they're starting to move some SBQ Roman units around the flank, around the rear of the pikes. But if you notice, can you see that a lot of the SBQR units are exhausted? But if you notice, a lot of the Greek units are just winded. Now that's going to make a big difference towards the end of the battle, because and there's a fresh unit there fighting a couple of units that are probably exhausted. And as I say, if you're exhausted, your troops fight less well and are more inclined to rout. So looking at these exhausted Roman troops, they're facing just winded pikemen. So I think this could be could make the difference towards the end. We've talked about exhaustion, very tired in other battles. If you try and fight with exhausted troops, very often you will end up being routed. I'd just like to show you the intensity of the fight in this battle. Now, bearing in mind this is only a 3v3 battle. If you look at the amount of dead all the way along the Pike battle line here, you can see how intense the fighting was. You know, for a 3v3 to see all the dead here, all the way along this battle line here, as I say, you can see that the fighting was intense. Can you see, like, the Roman shields were almost stood up like tombstones, like showing where the Roman troops fell, all the way from one flank to the other. You can see all the dead. And as I say, it's only a 3v3. It looks more like a massive 4v4 with the amount of dead on the battlefield. And now the Pike generals are just looking to, I would think, just to look to finish off the Roman troops that are left there. I think there's a couple of beasts units left there. If you notice, those SBQR units running away, and it wouldn't surprise me if he actually turned on the attacking Pike units here. Beast is not one to run away. As I said in the early part of the battle, he is always one to attack. Very aggressive player is Beast. And moving away from the enemy is not something that I think he would do easily. Probably looking for an angle to charge into the flank of those attacking Pike units. There you go. He wasn't going to run for too long. Bang! Charged infantry in there. But that unit is exhausted. Well, it says winded there, but a lot of his units were exhausted there. And that's why they mostly folded. You can see a close-up here of the Spartan, very battle-damaged Spartan unit up against there. Could you see those Spartans just glow then? That's where they were upgraded through battle. The longer you fight, and if you fight well and get a lot of kills, you get upgraded. So they just been upgraded. Probably got an extra experience stripe there during the course of the battle there. So it looks like the Greek team has gone on to win this. I would think a very close
but by the narrowest
battle.
of margins.
The first thing I like to say is really well played to everybody in the game there. Really well played, guys. And as you can see, it is only a close victory. I think if this game did very close, then that's what this battle would have been, a very close victory there. And it could have gone either way, right down to the wire. I'd just like to draw your attention to Hades. Got over 2,000 kills. For a 3v3, that's good. And for Beast, 1,963, nearly 2,000. So really well done to the Titans team there. And nice kills for Cleo, Kleomenis, and Axie as well. And I just thought it was great to see 3 Pike factions commanded by the Greeks against 3 Roman armies commanded by the Titans there. If it was really a Titan struggle there, I think, between the two factions, the two clans there. And like I say, it could have gone either way, all the way down. As I say, if you've enjoyed this battle, then that's really great. And it's a Spartan commander saying, hope you really have enjoyed this battle supplied by Kleomenis, and bye for now.